everyone, welcome to this video. In our previous video, we discussed about integrating LLM in prompt flow. We have used multiple tools in this particular workflow. If you see here, we have a prompt workflow that used to generate the prompt for us, and that prompt will be passed to the LLM tool. So instead of doing this way, we can use something called Prompty. Prompty, it's a modular, reusable, testable tool that let you combine both the prompt generation as well as the LLM execution. So basically, if you think of this way, prompt flow is a flow engine, right? And it has multiple tools in that: prompt, LLM, Python, many other tools that can be used in the flow. But Prompty, it's specific for prompt execution. So generating the prompt and connecting to the LLM, submitting this prompt, getting the response. This can be done using Prompty, right? Hope it is clear. So prompt flow, it's kind of a framework. Within that, Prompty is a specific tool that can be. In order to use Prompty, we need to have a tool called Prompt Flow. In our previous video, I discussed about this. So all you need to do is that you need to install the Prompty tool extension here. Once it is installed, then it is very straightforward for us. So let me go ahead and create a folder here called a Prompty. Now within that, let me create my first flow here, call it as a first. Now what we can do is that right click, create a new Prompty here. So this is going to give us the definition, right? So this definition, if you look into this definition, it has two different sections. Number one, if you see here, this is where you can configure your model like LLM information, right? So if you see here, type of the connection, endpoint, deployment. So all you need to do is that you need to populate the values for these. Again, let me copy paste the values that I have here. So if you see here, my endpoint would be my project that we are using throughout this series, and the name of the deployment, it's a GPT-4o. It's not a model name. Again, this is the deployment name, and the API version, again, we discussed about this API version, I'm not using the preview version, I'm using the GA version. And the key, in our previous video I showed you how do we get the keys. So I have the keys. You can also configure all the parameters. For instance, you can also configure the temperature. So let me configure the temperature. Let me set the temperature to 0.7. Here we have a system instruction, and we are giving the context to the system, and the user question will be passed. Now if you look at the sample, if there is no input provided, if you run it here, if you just run it here, the sample will be used. So wherever you have a template here, for instance, first name and the context question, so all this will be substituted with this value, right? Everything is ready here. Now let me go ahead and run it. You can just click on this run button to run it. So it is going to run it, and it is going to respond back to us in a moment. So let me expand this. So if you see here, we are getting the response back from the LLM. So now if you see here clearly, what we have done is that we have configured the LLM configurations here, and we are also taking care of the prompt engineering here, right? So we are passing the system information and as well as the context and the user question. So everything it's passed in the very same tool. Not necessarily we have to use multiple tools. Everything it's in the very same tool. Now what we want to do is that instead of hard coding all these values, I wanted to use the environment variables. So let me go ahead and create a new folder here, call it as my second flow. So again, right click, create a new prompt. So we have the Prompty here. So what I want to do is that let me exactly copy paste everything. So we have the exact same replica here. Maybe I will also take care of the parameter temperature here, right? So let me take the temperature. It's not mandatory, I'm just keeping it here. So just use the now what we want to do is that I don't want to hard code anything here. Rather, I should be able to use the environment variables here. So to do that, what we have to do is that we have to create a .env file. So right click, create a new file, call it as a .env, in which we have to populate all these values. Again, let me create all the variables here. So if you see here, like I have quite a few variables here. So basically, like whatever I have here, I just moved to the env file. So now what I have to do is that I have to replace these hard-coded values with the environment variables. So if you see here, I'm replacing the hard-coded values with the environment variable. So again, if you see here, that will match here. So for instance, so if I just take it here, that matches here. So we are matching. So basically, like what we are saying is that here, like you need all of this information, but then like this information it's already available in the environment variable. Now with that, like let me go ahead and run this flow. It should respond back to us in the same way. So now we see the output here. So let me minimize this. Now what we want to do is that now we want to integrate Prompty with the prompt flow. So now right click, create a new folder, call it as a third one. So what I want to do is that I wanted to create a prompt flow here. Let me go ahead and create a prompt flow here. Let me go to the terminal, navigate to the third folder. So to do that, cd prompty third. So we are in that folder. Let me create a flow here, call it as a prompt flow prompting. So I just created a prompt flow here. So with that, like let me go and create a new prompty here. So what we do is that right click here, create a new prompting, and just keep it like that, and we will take everything from here. So basically, like instead of hard coding anything, we wanted to use the env values. So just save it, as well as we need this. So just copy it here, keep it in the same folder here, just paste it here. So basically now what I am saying is that, so I have the base prompting. So I should be able to run as it is. So just run it, because like I already have the env. So it should run and it should respond back to us, right? Give us the results back. Now in order to call the prompty in the prompt flow, what we have to do is that the prompt flow. So let me paste my code here. So if you just see here what we have done. So I'm just taking all this as an input, right? So exactly like what we have in the prompt flow. So these are all the input needed for the prompting. So I'm wanted to make sure that my flow takes care of that. So it takes in first name, context, question, all of this as an input, and then like pass it to the prompting. So this is where like something is missing. If you see here, we are missing that particular file. So go ahead and create the file. Click on this, create the file. So the prompty.python file got created. All we need to do is that we need to call the prompty in this file. So let me do this. So what we are saying is that prompty is part of a prompt flow core library, and we wanted to load the environment variables here. And the like prompty, we need to call the prompty, right? So we are just getting the prompty file, load it into the prompty, and then like we are calling the prompty just like this and returning the result. Now let me save it. Now if you see here, so we are taking the input, passing it to the Python, and printing the output. We go ahead and run the flow here. So all I need to do is the pf flow test, name of the flow. As I have already have the default value, I'm not passing the input. Otherwise you have to. Now let me run the flow here. Let me maximize this. So it is just starting the prompt flow service, and it is invoking the prompt flow. I'm getting the result here. So now what we have done is that it is pretty similar to what we had in our previous video, right? So if you just see here, in here like we have two tools, prompt and like LLM. But like now what we have done is that with the help of Prompty, so we combined everything. So we only have a Prompty, like single tool. So this Python will call the Prompty. Prompty will take care of the LLM configuration, as well as the prompt generation and its execution. That's all I have for this video. Thank you for watching.